Welcome back. Thank you for being here. Okay, so I gotta start off by saying in my last video, I made a mistake. I said that my youngest daughter was my third daughter. I meant to say third child. I only have two daughters, two sons. Okay, and I also kind of wanted to address, I realized that I told the last story and I kind of sped through the fact that I was strangled. It's not funny. It's not funny. I'm one of those sarcastic people. One of my coping mechanisms is humor. So sometimes I laugh at things that aren't funny, but I can also laugh because I've healed. I'm over it now. But in the moment when those things were happening to me, I wasn't addressing the trauma. I wasn't addressing the fact that somebody had just strangled me and almost tried to kill me. I was more focused on moving forward. It was although him and I had been together for 4 years, him being in the city was relatively new, and it just wasn't a situation where I had wanted to give up. And plus, like I said, he was very apologetic. He was very sorry for everything that he had done, and he wanted to move forward. And we even talked about going to counseling. He agreed to go to counseling. So at that time, I felt like, okay, you've done this thing here. It's horrible, but I love you. And if you're willing to go to counseling, I'm convinced that counseling can make a difference for us. So that's what we did. And the thing when you're in an abusive relationship, it literally is a cycle. At some point in this video series, we're going to talk about, it's called the power and control wheel of abuse that typically happens. And so when you're in this cycle, you get abused, your abuser is apologetic for it, and then everything is good for a little bit. And so we were in that space where things were going great. We were getting along great. There was no violence or problems that the kids had to witness or go through. So it was good until it wasn't. So shortly after that time, there was another incident. And I don't remember. Here's the other thing too with trauma. When you go through all this trauma, your brain blocks out a lot of stuff. So there are certain things that I remember about that time very vividly and can recount it. But then there are certain arguments or situations that we've had where I only remember bits and pieces of it. And then there are things that the kids will come to me and they'll be like, oh, do you remember that time when such, and I'm like, do not remember. So this is an argument where I kind of remember bits and pieces of. I don't remember the full entire thing, but I can tell you that it involved my two older kids, and it was horrible. And what I do remember is my oldest son, who's 20 now, love him. He was trying to defend me at that time. And at that time, he was literally like 9 years old. And my ex slapped him so hard, he flew across the bed. My oldest was trying to get my youngest son out of the situation. He slapped her too. I don't really remember all the rest of that story, but all I remember was it was so horrible that that same night he cried to my children, begging their forgiveness. And again, I just felt like he deserved another chance. And what often created arguments between him and I was his need to control, right? So like, say for example, I had a book and I was reading the book and he knew I was reading the book. What he would do was he would take the book from me and hold on to it and argue and taunt the book in my face as if to say, you can't get it back and there's nothing you could do. He would take car keys. At that time, we shared a vehicle. So he would take the car keys and he would hide the car keys so that I couldn't get them and so that I couldn't go anywhere. Like, a lot of times those behaviors would also cause arguments between us. So I feel like it was a situation, it was one of those, I think, that created that argument in which he abused my children. And even though he abused my children, I still didn't leave him. There were still things that happened between us. Because like I said, as we're going on, it's not abuse all the time. He's nice in these other moments. And plus we're going to counseling. And he's acting like counseling is working and he's getting things out of counseling. But the one thing that I did start to do was call the police. And I would do it again. So I'll see you in the next video and we'll talk about that. But remember, God did not put you here for anybody to beat on you.